When we look at the world right now, many of us fail to realize what a delicate being time itself is. It is simple, it goes in a straight line, but it is irreversible in every single approach. Therefore, curiosity over what had happened in the past has made us create movies, stories, and science fictions on time travels, time machines, and plausibility of such acts clearly against the law of nature. Many of us might not realize that time travelers in fact do exist, and they are historians and scholars. Using their pen and intellect, they allow us to take a peek into the past. This video will teach you how to become a time traveler yourself by knowing how to conduct a historical research. Step 1. Locate a time period. It goes without saying that history is long and you can't do a research on the whole human history. Each time period has its own distinctiveness, so you will have to find a specific time period that interests you. Next, you will have to investigate this time period a little bit. What's going on in this time period in the world? What are the recent groundbreaking development that has unignorable historical significance? These investigations will set a good basis for your research. Step 2. Find a location and an event. Now that you have confirmed a specific time period, it is time to find a location in a specific event. The same applies. Be aware of the context and the location during a specific time period. What has been happening in this location? Are there distinct cultures, customs, or information or events that are necessary to the understanding of the historical progress in this location? These background information are crucial to your history project, and then you have to find an event. You can't do a whole research on the American Revolution, and even the Declaration of Independence can be too large of a scope. But you can do Benjamin Franklin's contribution to the Declaration or a specific convention. Once you have the location, event, and time in mind, you are ready for the next step. Step 3. Research about the event. This tends to be the more time-consuming step in the process. Typically, you will be looking for evidence of two types: primary sources and secondary sources. Primary sources are sources from the time period that you are investigating. On the other hand, secondary sources are the sources not from the time period you are investigating. For example, if you are studying the 18th century Europe, a primary source can be the letters of an 18th century Russian farmer, while a secondary source can be a 20th century historian's chronology of 18th century Hungary. A good history research has a nice balance between primary sources and secondary sources. Step 4. Formulate a thesis. After finding the evidences, you should have a thesis in mind. A good history project does not simply present what has been going on during the period, but incorporates an in-depth analysis and complex understanding of the intertwined network of causations and effects, similarities and differences, and continuities and changes in the time period in the spaces of the past. And the thesis, which is the central statement that you are arguing for, is the center of your understanding of the topic. A good thesis has two sides of it. It should have an antithesis and a thesis, which shows the historian's multiplicity in understanding. For example, a good thesis can have two parts. Despite JFK's initial response to civil rights movement was undetermined, after the brutality at Birmingham, he took on an active role in promoting the integration cause. Step 5. Write. Conducting a historical research not only requires patience and competent reading skills, but also needs you to know how to write academically. Your writing should be well-structured, clear, and persuasive, free of grammatical errors, ambiguous expressions, and redundant information. More importantly, in your writing, you are allowed to use information provided or created by others, but you always have to cite your sources. Not citing your sources can subject you to plagiarism, and is not something that you want. So, now if you have a historical topic that had long intrigued you, you know what to do.